into the decision to leave there and
Right.
come to Reitz. How did you hear about when did you first hear about the position being open?
Actually, I believe my brother may have called me and told me about it. I can't remember if he or maybe Coach Ship or Coach Gaddis or Coach Hart. I talked to all those guys about the position, and one thing led to another, and spoke to some different people involved with the whole situation, and got involved in the interview process, and it all worked out.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
Good. What are you in returning to Evansville? What are you other than being the head coach of Reitz? What are you most looking forward to about being back in Evansville?
Well, you and I talked about one thing before this, getting to eat at the Leggies is one good thing, but all the great restaurants on the west side, and you know, just being around people that are excited about football. I was lucky enough to be in a situation in Wheelersburg that the whole community backed football, kind of like the west side of Evansville. And I'm excited about being around that situation, excited to be back in the bowl and being able, as I told the players when I first met with them, my biggest concern is, you know, caring about the players, having coaches that are on staff that care about them and making them good young men. And that is my number one concern in terms of getting the staff together. If the X's and O's will take care of itself, but my biggest thing is molding these guys into good young men, and I think that's my biggest goal in terms of doing that and doing a good job teaching, and hopefully doing a good job with the overall athletic program in terms of getting athletes, whether they're
You've been to a lot of the basketball games here recently.
Right, whether they're male or female. We have females in the weightlifting class, whatever it is. As I told our kids, we want them to play as many sports as they can play and enjoy high school, and whatever sport it is, my goal is to help out that sport in terms of getting them more prepared in terms of athletic ability down here in the weight room and with agility and speed work. And if we can do that, then and mold them into good people, then I think we've done a good job.
You mentioned about your coaching staff. Are you going to bring any of your assistants from Ohio? Are there any of those coming with you?
No, actually, I talked to Miss Settle about that and some of the other people in the interview committee, and most of the guys that I worked with there were Wheelersburg guys that came back and volunteered their time because they were Wheelersburg guys. They played football at Wheelersburg, and I know they're not going to leave that community. They love Wheelersburg, and our defensive coordinator this past year actually just bought a new house, had a baby, and he is one that is not a Wheelersburg guy. He's from Gallipolis, Ohio, but I'd love to bring a few of them. They're good guys and have been great to work with, and I'm going to miss them, but I know they're not going to leave Wheelersburg, Ohio.
Can we expect to see a lot of familiar faces on the sidelines as far as coaches this year?
Yes, I think so. I think, you know, I've talked to, you know, a lot of different coaches from the Cub level on up, and you're not going to see a lot of big changes in terms of the coaching staff. You know, a lot of the same guys are going to be around, hopefully, and hopefully we can get some new guys in, and guys that, once again, are going to put the kids first. That's our number one priority.
Good, Tell me what you think. Having coached in both Ohio and Indiana, there's I noticed on the Gridiron Digest message where there's a lot of controversies. Ohio looks at Indiana as kind of inferior competition.
Okay.
What is your take on Ohio versus Indiana as far as high school
football? That is
football?
a loaded question, Rudy. Here's what I'll say about that situation. And I've been asked that question before, so here's what I say about that situation. Evansville has good football. Where I was in Southern Ohio has very good football. And in terms of the overall state of Ohio and the overall state of Indiana in terms of football, here's what I'd say. I would say that the top teams in Indiana, the top 10 teams, let's say, in each class, can play with the top teams in Ohio in those classes. Okay? That's how I would say. Now, the difference is that Indiana only has 300 and some teams overall, and you have about 700 and some teams, 720 teams in Ohio. So the difference is from the top level down, when you drop below the top 10 teams of each division, I'd say that that's probably where Ohio has a little bit of an advantage in terms of football, and Ohio along with Florida and Texas and California are all known as football states, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. But I'd say, but in terms of football at the top level of Indiana and top level of Ohio, I don't think there's a big difference. I think the best teams in Indiana in their division can play with the best teams in Ohio in their divisions. That's how. It's just when you drop below the best teams, I think Ohio has a little bit of an advantage because they have more schools, and it's good football over there. I mean, that's the bottom line. Very good football, just like Evansville.
When Coach Hart came to Reitz, there was talk about trying to schedule a varsity game between the two schools, between Mount Carmel and Reitz.
Right.
But Mount Carmel being a smaller school, really that was kind of a barrier. But they did play some lower level games.
Right.
I know Wheelersburg would they be like a 3A school?
They'd probably be. I'm not sure. Is Mater Dei 2 or 3A?
They're 2A right now.
How many? Do you know how many people Mater Dei has in their school? And I can give you an example. I would say that Wheelersburg would probably be about the same size as Mater Dei.
Okay.
I'm not sure what Mater Dei's student population is. I know Wheelersburg has about 450 students, probably.
Any possibility of probably not at varsity level?
Well, I don't know. Right? I'll be going back over to Wheelersburg to finish out the week this week, and then I'll be back here for good start next Monday. But I've actually had several players in Wheelersburg say, "We want to play Reitz."
Really?
Want to play. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And that comes from the fact that goes back to, I was talking to a coach earlier today, that goes back to our schedule at Wheelersburg. We would play, when I was at Wheelersburg, we'd play anybody. Yeah. We played, just this past year, we played a team in Kentucky called Johnson Central that would probably be a 5A team in Indiana. And the teams we lost to this year probably averaged about a 10-1 record. So our kids are used to playing good competition, and they'll play I should say their kids now in Wheelersburg are used to playing good competition every year, and they'll play anybody, and they'd expect to win. If they played Reitz, they expect to beat us, just like I'm sure Reitz would expect to beat them.
Right.
Yeah. So they'll play anybody, and they've already talked to me about wanting to play us. And I said, well, we'll see if we can get that accomplished.
Yeah.
You never know.
Never know.
Yeah.
What are your plans, long-term plans? Do you plan on being at Reitz for a while? Do you want to get into college coaching?